Hello, I'm Marty Gallagher,
And
and
Jim
I'm here with
Steele.
Jimmy Steele. And what's the date, Jim? It's December
Wow,
9th,
dude. Yes.
2024.
Yeah, I think it's December. Yes, it is December 9th.
Yes, December 9th, 2024. We're here with we are the Purposeful Primitives, and we have mastered the art of improvisational podcasting because we never discuss at the time what we're going to talk about. Truth be known. So I'm going to kick it off. I This past week, I had a lot of folks have approached me and said, "Hey, what are you guys talking about when you say you're purposeful primitives? What does that mean?" And it it started out at Jim, with originally I got that it was a phrase I used in one of my when I was writing the Purposeful Primitive book. Well, actually, before I wrote the Purposeful Primitive book, I wrote an article, and Pavel Tsatsouline saw it, and he went, that phrase, purposeful primitive, big brother, he called me big brother. He said, that's gold. So I got to thinking about it. And I said, well, that two-word phrase encapsulates our, our approach. And we have a multiplicity of approaches because in our world, which we really, it's transformative. You can call it fitness, I guess, but we're looking to radically transform the human body.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's what we're about. And you can radically transform the human body to be a better athlete, to be a better lifter, to be a better bodybuilder, to be a healthier person. But so if you get deep into this whole idea of how do we transform the human body, at some point you can't just be a lifter or just be a runner or just be a dieter. If you want to truly radically transform the body, you have to have a strength training element, cardiovascular element, a nutritional element, and we added a fourth, which we call a brain train, which is a psychological aspect. Totally overlooked. The psychology
Yeah.
drives
Which
the
may be the most
process.
important.
That's what ignites the whole thing.
Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
but let's get back to the idea of purposely primitive. What we found is in each of these areas, whether it was nutrition, whether it was strength training, whether it was cardio, is that the ultra basics were
Right.
ignored or forgotten or never learned to begin with. So when we start, and I was raised in a time when that all there were ultra basics. That's
Yeah.
all we had because I was training in the mid 60s. I started training in 1961. And back then, there were no machines. A bench was a radical device, right?
Yeah.
Wow, you've got a bench, but it didn't have any uprights.
And it couldn't incline.
No, no, right? Wow, you've got a bench.
Yeah.
Wow. And the first machine I ever saw was the lat pull down. That was it. So we're purposely primitive in strength training because that's what we were weaned on. And you can get incredible results by goosing intensity, all kinds of tricks. The techniques that we learned, we were drilled in technique in our strength training to a degree that is not emphasized today. In the cardio, we're ultra basic in that. When
Yeah.
we did our cardio, we used our feet,
Yeah. I always,
right?
when you talk about, when you hear that, I always think like we separate the wheat from the chaff. Is that the right expression?
Yeah, right.
Because with all that other stuff, and it's just like clients I have that say, God, just tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent them a training cycle that has squats, bench, deadlift, overhead press, push-ups.
Right,
And they're like,
right,
well, what about,
right.
my gym has all this stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, okay, you can do it if you want, or do you want the fastest results?
right,
And with the simplest way, and where you can go anywhere and do this. So you don't have to have the fancy adductor, posterior chain
right,
machine that only
right.
this one gym has. oh, you could just do some deadlifts and you'll cover that whole posterior chain. So when I
Right,
think of that, I almost think of like, how you're always talking about Occam's razor. I'm thinking, oh, we just cut it all out. And we just
right.
go with, okay, well, when you were in the 60s and somebody was a little overweight, not that there was many overweight people, you said, oh, I gotta get in shape for this,
Football.
gotta get in a weight class or football or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
lose some weight or whatever. Oh yeah, but keep your protein high and cut your sugars out.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, you mean you
They
don't need
don't,
a metabolic enhancer? No, there wasn't
mm-mm.
one. So I
No,
always think of us,
there wasn't one.
right, right. But that's always the best way, when you cut it all out.
But we're not Luddites. Do you know where that phrase come from? It's pretty cool. Ned Ludd. Back back in the English Industrial Revolution, they when they brought the machines in, the machines displaced workers.
Right.
So they had a mentally challenged guy named Ned Ludd, and Ned they had this great idea that in order to stop the industrial revolution so that the workers would keep their jobs, that the solution was, let's destroy the machines. If we destroy all the machines, they got to hire us back.
Right.
So that was the phrase Luddite, right? You're a Luddite.
Yeah. The
You, you,
basics,
you're
basic,
you,
basic, beyond
so
basic.
yeah. So the whole idea of purposefully primitive, and when we work with elite, whether it's elite athletes or it's elite military, when we go into work with them, we take them back to those ultra basics that a lot of them never learned to begin with, and those that have, it's very easy to get seduced and distracted with this barrage of choices you have in this era. Back in my day, we had very limited sources of information, but they were good.
Yeah. Well, it was
Right?
more focused on let's do these few things correctly.
Fewer things better.
Yeah.
That's one of our
Yeah.
mottos.
Just learn how to squat perfectly, learn how to
Fewer
deadlift
things better.
perfectly,
Fewer things
overhead
better.
press. Yeah.
Fewer things better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luddite. Fewer things better.
And as far
Luddite.
as the
Ned Ludd. Fewer things better.
Well, let me ask you this. When I was writing
Ah,
about, we were talking about this about old school and all that.
yes.
I'm writing an article about it and trying to define it.
What
And
does that mean?
yeah, well,
Old school.
when I think of old school, I think of now I wasn't a 60s guy, but late 70s, 80s, the gyms so it was sort of gaining traction, the whole lifting, bodybuilding thing, because Arnold was around, but it still wasn't a gym on every corner. I saw this freaking gym the other day. It was like a city block, this
Right.
Edge fitness stuff. It was more like, I remember this one gym in North Carolina when I was in school I used to go to. It was in the bottom of a pizza place.
Yeah.
Don was his name, the owner with a big beard, a biker dude. And the
Right.
ceilings were so low that if you were 6'2", you were going to have
Yeah.
trouble,
Yeah.
but, and you really had to have the love for it. But it was just very, very simple, very basic. A sense of community was huge
And
and
they turned out monsters.
turnout monsters. And I wrote
Yeah.
guys with triceps hanging off their elbows and
Yeah.
quads sticking out of their sweatpants. But
Yeah.
it wasn't, there was no getting ready like your appearance. You know what I mean? Guys came in after work. They had jeans and combat boots on their
Right.
bench day or their overhead
Right.
day. And then on their squat day, they wore, sweatpants, sweatshirt with cut off sleeves and athletic tape around the wrists, right?
Right.
It was just like, how can I be as functional? It wasn't a beauty contest,
It's
right?
like those old photos of Gail Gillingham doing the partials in the rack with 1,000 pounds, and
Yeah,
he's the basement is horrible, the rack is horrible, the
yeah,
weights are all mismatched. He's got on a torn t-shirt and stained sweatpants and combat boots that aren't tied,
right.
and somebody happened to take a picture, and he probably said, God damn it, don't take any pictures in here.
Yeah, what are you doing? Why would you take a picture of lifting weights?
Right, 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 right. When it all changed,
When?
because I was there. It all changed when it became acceptable for women to join gyms and fitness and the whole thing, which really kicked off in the 80s with the Jane Fonda uh,
Aerobics.
thing. Yeah, with this, and that was sort of the entry level drug. Then all of a sudden, women started appearing in gyms, which is very rare,
Yeah, I know.
very rare up until the 80s, up until the 80s. But when the genius and Joe Weider, who I worked for Weider for 6 years. Um, Weider's genius was in the 70s. He was going to push powerlifting.
Oh,
He had hired Bill Starr, and he was going to expand the magazine. They were looking for ways to expand the bodybuilding universe,
right.
and they were going to expand the universe by covering they were covering Olympic weightlifting, and they started covering powerlifting, particularly with the West Coast guys, Peanuts West, Pat Casey. They were trained at the original West Side. So Joe would show up. He'd literally go over to the sessions at the old West Side, the original West Side, the only West Side
And
barbell.
he was a fan of powerlifting. He was a fan of,
Yes, he was. He was appreciative. They loved the size of the guys. The
yeah,
powerlifters were monstrous compared to the bodybuilders of the era.
yeah.
But Joe
Vince
and his
Carrano,
wife,
160 pounds.
Vince Caranda, Grumpy Vince, the Joe, his wife Betty, who was very smart, she said, "Look, you're barking up the wrong tree. Get on the women back bandwagon." So that's what happened, and they started all of a sudden they started having women's physique competitions. Remember that was a big
Lisa
damn
Lyon
deal.
was Lisa Lyon.
Yeah,
Remember?
Listen Lyon and
You had Rachel came.
Sharon Bernay, Rachel McLesh, who actually was Ray Mentzer's girlfriend for a while.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy on her. So that was the sea change
So then you think the men
because
started to care about what they wore?
you doubled your audience.
No, but I mean, how did the gyms change when the women started entering? The men started caring
Well, they
about what
no
they.
they well yeah of course and they had the own management. Well, no longer could you have profanity. No longer could you have inappropriate behavior because you know most of the ladies, their checks didn't bounce and they were able
That's
to
they.
pay the fees,
Yeah, they
and
figured out where the money is. Yeah.
they showed up, and you know what I mean, they were diligent. Now again, the first you would see would be the aerobic classes. That was the biggest moneymaker in the history of fitness because you could pack 50 people in a room, put on a boom box, have one instructor stand in front of a room and start grooving to the oldies
Yep.
and making money, 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 money,
In and
money,
out,
money,
in and out
money,
in an
money,
hour.
money, money, in and out in an hour.
No guys hanging out by the bar.
They didn't break stuff. They didn't talk back. They didn't start fights. They didn't steal shit. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep.
So from the business point of view, that was the
Makes
start. That
sense.
was the ignition of the fitness revolution, which was a good thing.
And then came the cardio stuff, right?
Well, the step aerobics was cardio, right?
Yeah, but I mean, as far as setting aside, so remember, Gold's Gym Wheaton had that old broken down exercise bike. They had one bike, and it was over in a corner. It was a blue bike with the
Yeah,
knob on it because
yeah.
nobody did cardio. There was a little jogging kind of stuff, but that was nobody
Well,
really.
that was Ken Cooper's aerobic
Right. The
revolution.
Cooper Institute.
Cooper Institute. You know.
Yeah. Uh, but really, it was just let's
I
lift
trained at that gym.
in Texas.
No, in
Oh, the
where
Gold's
you?
Gym. The Gold's.
Yeah, the gold. It was in yeah,
Yeah, it used to
Lemont.
be a schoolhouse.
Yeah, it was Woodside Elementary School.
I worked there. I opened it up, and it was a little. We missed each
You
other.
did.
I think you had moved on, but
I was good friends with Miller's brother, the one who played for University of Maryland.
yeah,
what was his name? I can't remember. Anyway,
Uh,
so getting back to purposeful primitives,
yes.
now in this day and age, and we run out purposeful primitives pretty good. Talk to me about that old school thing a little bit more, man. That thing is so misused in this day and age, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
lost
and
it's lost its potency.
it has, but there is a yearning for it now. So people, there's guys opening gyms that are trying to sort of bring that back.
How? What's the
Well, they
characteristics of
make
that?
it, they put
No women.
graffiti. No, there's one graffiti on the wall. A lot of power racks, a lot of
Is it
platforms.
is it now? Is it fake graffiti on the wall or is it real graffiti on the
No,
wall?
no, you hire somebody to do it.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's what we call a cultural appropriation.
it's interesting.
That's like when the rich
That's right.
people
That's right.
open a barbecue restaurant in Georgetown,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, they're trying to put a what they call pig jacket on a pig or what's that called? I don't know.
lipstick,
Yeah.
lipstick on a pig.
So let's take for example Mac where we used to train.
Maryland Athletic
Athletic club.
Club, College Park, Maryland.
Old school.
Yeah.
What made that place old school?
Well, first off, it was owned by Ian Burgess, who was a nationally ranked Olympic weightlifter.
Along with his girlfriend was a power lifter too, right? Power lifter.
That
Right? The skinny.
that came a little later.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. She had a heart monitor, I remember that. But go ahead.
Yeah.
So what made the gym? So you walk into the gym.
Because number one, Ian got enough financial traction that he was able to keep the place open.
So is it the
To be hardcore, you have to survive.
Yeah.
And if guys don't pay, or hey, let me get to you next, I'm a little short right now, the gym doesn't last long. And when you got a bunch of hardcore guys, it's very hard to get money out of.
Yeah.
Just saying from personal experience. They tend to not be the most economically enhanced group of individuals.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to make it. Now, Ian made it, I think, partially because he had a good location.
Yeah.
Right.
On Route 1.
And Ian was Olympic lifters are a little different. They're not powerlifters. Powerlifters tend to be orcish, right?
Wait, they're what?
Like an orc in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
You have the wonderful people, beautiful people, the heroes, and then you have the orcs, right? The
Okay.
purposely deformed people who, what's your goal in life? To be gargantuan.
Right. So the people make
So
it.
Ian survived. Ian made it. He always had, but he had a good mixture. He had, I'd say, 30% female
Wow.
trainers, 70% guys, 30% female, but it was always people there. Also, he was open from dawn till dusk. I mean, till midnight. I mean, he was open all the time. And he was a good businessman. And Ian was tough. He only weighed 135 pounds, but he was a tough little dude. And everybody paid,
So
which
was
was
the
a
people
good
that made
thing.
it, the people that made it, or the atmosphere, the equipment, you know,
Well, I mean, it depends on what your
what
Are
made
you
it old
talking
school?
about? Are
What
you
made it
talking
old
about
school?
what me and you would consider made it? Yeah, because you had world champions training there
Yeah.
and Hall of Fame people training there, right? And that draws the uber elite magnetize the next layers down, right? You have some superstar training at the gym. He'll have people that are mentoring under him. They'll have people mentoring under them, and you'll bring a crowd in. But a lot of times that brings problems because really elite athletes can be very difficult.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know. I've seen so many good gyms. It seems like a good gym is like a good restaurant. Eventually, they all go out of business.
Why did
right?
Mac go out of business? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. And it's just,
It's a
so,
sordid deal.
yeah,
Detail.
it's just, yeah, we don't, yeah.
Okay.
It
Okay.
yeah, just
Okay.
happens.
Okay. Um, okay. So let me get back to so they started with the advent of the cardio, with the advent of so there was gyms for a while. So it's sort of taken a step back where there was gyms for a while where there's no power racks, no free weights, nothing. There's still some of those. But
Yeah.
now I think CrossFit, when CrossFit came in, a lot of people got involved, including a lot of women. And so they wanted gyms where they could do that kind of stuff also.
Uh,
So people
I
started at,
love I think CrossFit was fantastic. I did, I didn't agree with their tactics and their techniques in terms of their teaching. But listen, they single-handedly revived powerlifting by
raw power.
stressing squats and deadlifts.
Yep. Raw power.
And again, the genius of CrossFit is that a regular guy who had a regular job could take out a second mortgage on his house and get a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to get the standard commercial gym, well, you have to get what
Oh,
the gym behind my house probably has 40 no, not 40, but 20 cardio devices, 20 and expensive, and then 20 progressive resistance machines. And you got to go to a bank and you got to get yourself a $400,000 loan
yeah. I don't know
to
how it
open.
stays
Well,
open.
I mean, and that equipment has to be maintained. It has to be upkeep. You've got to have a big area, so your rent is going to be heavy. You got to have a bunch of people to staff it. So you're looking down the barrel of a big gun right off the bat, and to open up the classic. Hey, we have 10 push pull cardio devices. We have 10 step aerobic. We are 10 step mills. We have 5. You know, it's expensive. Those devices will cost what, $10,000 each, I would imagine. Somebody's got to bring it there. Somebody's got to keep it up. So that's different. CrossFit was genius.
Just some racks and plates and rubber flooring.
Yeah, and no machines.
Right.
And this idea of also they were smart in that they carved out a different niche. They said, "Oh, we're about creating athletes that
Yeah.
can do that can squat 500 pounds and can walk on their hands." That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But they didn't say, "Oh, we're a bodybuilding gym." No, no. This is a totally different thing. We're creating I don't know their pitch, but to me it was like we're creating athletically usable muscle and strength, right?
Yeah.
The
Function.
functional, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever that definition.
Yeah.
There's another overused phrase
Oh my
too, right?
gosh.
Right.
Drives me crazy.
Functional. We're functional. Well, what's your definition of
Yeah.
functional, right?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that CrossFit really brought sort of that stuff back where these gyms
Yes,
started
yes, 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 yes,
adding the
yes,
power rack area,
yes,
adding the where area where
yes.
people can do Olympic lifts.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
it
would agree.
really
Yeah,
did. And
I would
then
agree with that.
so what happened in powerlifting was everybody had wraps and suits and all. Then they found out, hey, I can just go in just like I'm in a CrossFit and compete like this with maybe
Yeah.
some knee sleeves and a belt or just a belt or whatever. And then remember the first year that they had the Raw when CrossFit sort of uh, got real popular. There was like hundreds of people in the Raw Nationals.
They cut the entries off at 400.
And it would go fast because you didn't have to wait
Right,
for the guy to wrap his knees, put the suit
right,
on the bench.
right.
And that must have been liberating, man. Liberating,
It was a vital transformation,
Yeah. And needed
for a dying
right.
cult.
It was needed for sure.
Well, powerlifting is splintered into 50 organizations. Some guy in whatever Dayton, Ohio, holding world championships. of the ACPDY
Yeah.
Federation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're the only person in your class.
Yeah, world, and you give you a medal, world champion. There's so many world champions out there. Yeah, it diluted everything. National champ, sixth. We had one guy. This guy could not bench 300 pounds without a shirt, weighing 180. And when he introduced himself, he had them introduce him as the 13-time world bench pressing champion, Todd Jones, or whatever his name was. Right? It was so ludicrous.
Yeah.
It soured me on it. I quit.
Yeah.
I had no. I don't. I couldn't tell you today anything about who's who in the sport. I've met a couple of the guys, but I don't. But it's funny. Everybody, like you said, that it was a tremendous change, a sea change. Where now it's sort of in, like, I was in the gym the other day and I saw some very serious women putting the very serious equipment to very serious use.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't quite Christy Bartlett level, but it was like, okay, these are probably. I was thinking like collegiate rugby players at St. Mary's University, which is right down the road, something like that. And it's good to see. It's good to see. Now you still see horrible technique exhibited everywhere. And again, our problem that we always found with our message, Purposeful Primitive, is it's extremely hard to sell plain vanilla.
I know. And hard work is hard to sell.
Intensity over volume.
Yeah.
People would prefer volume.
Yeah.
Because there's an ease to it, right? There's no serious. Well, again, we can get into the whole bodybuilding versus strength training. That's another thing. People are completely ignorant of the fact that there are totally separate and distinct approaches. Bodybuilding and powerlifting are as different as powerlifting and Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
I've been watching these little shorts that come up on my phone, which I find interesting. I see Jay Cutler a lot, and he's a smart guy, and he's a good explainer of the bodybuilding approach. And it's, the key to me was he said, I only rest 45 seconds between a set.
Yeah.
And he's doing 4 exercises per body part. And he's doing two to 3 body parts per session, right? So if you have a 2-hour training session and you're resting 45 seconds between sets, you have to use pee-wee poundage in order to make it across the finish line.
Yeah.
How much weight? I mean, to me, if I was only allowed 45 seconds between each of the top set, my poundage handling ability would plummet.
Yeah, I don't think he worried. I mean, he did some decent weights, but I don't think he worried about the poundage as much as.
No, he didn't. No,
feeling.
he would say that. He would say that. No, we have no, and also the reps. The favored style was to never lock out.
Yeah.
Because they would keep the continuous muscle tension. They were looking for the continuous tension, and a favored tactic was to get in the mid range of the rep stroke. If this is the full range, you get in between, and you just stay there. And again, you're looking for the pump. You're not looking to increase strength.
Yeah.
Right. Strength.
It's something by accident they get strong. Yeah.
It's purely coincidental. Any strength increase for a pure bodybuilder is purely coincidental, just like any muscle size for a serious strength athlete is purely coincidental.
Yeah, you're like, oh, man, I'm getting bigger. Yeah.
Strength. And again, we talk about Dorian Yates a lot, but Dorian, and I saw a short on him where he explained the same thing. Dorian was not really an Arthur Jones acolyte. he was a power lifter that did forced reps.
And so was Kevin.
Well, yeah, because the whole Jones thing was one set to failure plus forced reps and negatives.
Partials, all
Well,
that stuff. Yeah.
you don't walk in off the street. Now, I didn't train with Menser, but I trained in the same gym as Mike Menser when he trained at Spartan when he was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base back in the 70s, right?
Right.
So we saw him train. And uh, Mike claimed 475 for 20 reps. Now, if you'd have seen the squat depth, I mean, it was like we would call them half squats.
He wasn't squatting like plats.
Oh, no, 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 not even close.
Yeah.
But he didn't walk in off the street and load the bar to 475 and go to failure and then have forced reps and negative. No,
Right.
he did 135, 225, 315, 365, 405, 4, you know what I mean? Well, that's not one set to failure. That's powerlifting and some forced reps. And all those guys threw away the negative. None of those guys were doing negatives. Negatives they're murder on your training partner. You can't, right? Yeah, you can do it on the negatives are okay on machines,
Right.
but for barbell work, it's damn near impossible. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to get spun off too far, but Menser and was another minimalistic trainer. We are minimalistic trainers, strength trainers, pure strength training. I had a guy ask the difference between what our style of training and a big bodybuilder. Again, Schwarzenegger at his peak was doing 700 sets a week. I counted them up.
I know. I remember.
I went through it
Yeah, I
in
remember.
700 sets a week. You know how many sets a week world champion Kurt Karwoski did a week? About 60.
And that's including everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's including everything.
Yeah. And again, Karwoski built muscle mass equal to anybody in the bodybuilding world.
Yeah. He was thick. It's
He
that
that hit at his peak, he was gigantic.
front to back thickness that
Yeah.
Dorian had and Kevin had and Ronnie had. And if you take all those guys that lifted heavy and were old school by our definition, I mean, Dorian used a little machines, and he can talk about machines all he wants. If you look at his program, he used the pullover, the preacher curl, the Smith, maybe, and
A little
the
bit.
legs. But man, he was deadlifting, right?
Yep.
He was inclining. He
Yep.
was doing all that dumbbell work and all that
Yep.
stuff that was the hardest on
And
your body. He was doing that. And so, and I trained with Kevin Laroni and free weights all the way, man. I mean, he'd use a Smith machine for behind the neck press, but it's still behind the neck press.
yeah.
And he was benching 500 for reps. He was inclining 455 for reps. He
Yeah.
squatted with the straight bar
And,
and
and,
deep and in the squat rack. He wasn't
and
pumped.
again, what are his and Dorian's motivation?
They
What
like
they
strength.
bought, yeah. Well, what they said is, look, if you get significantly stronger,
Yeah.
you will grow significantly more muscle.
I got the idea.
Assuming
Yeah.
assuming you use that bodybuilding nutrition where they're eating 6 times a day. Cutler said that every day he ate 4 pounds of meat and 20 eggs
Yeah. He was eating a
every
lot.
day, seven
Ate a
days a
lot.
week,
Ate a
seven
lot.
days a week,
Yeah.
right?
1,000
Now
carbs.
you
Yeah.
yeah, 1,000 carbs, and you combine that with the type of strength training. And again, the reason that Dorian Yates was huge is because he could do strict rows with 455 for reps, and he was inclining 435 for 6 reps, and then having Leroy give him 2 more force reps. So guess what? If a guy can incline 435, he's going to have a big ass chest.
Yeah. You don't see a spindly guy doing that. And
I have never seen a guy with yeah.
and Kevin, I got a feeling that Kevin was like, if I'm not strong, it's not worth lifting. He wanted to be strong. Like he wanted always benching over 500. He liked that aspect.
Well,
And he didn't talk to me about other bodybuilders. He talked to me about strong guys.
yeah.
He likes
And,
strength.
and he, he wanted to fight in the UFC. I don't know if you remember back
No,
when, yeah, yeah, yeah. He tried, they had a sort of a quasi UFC fight in Frederick, Maryland, and he tried like hell to enter.
Kevin Levrone?
Yep.
Oh, no way.
He's also a good sprinter. Have you seen
Oh, I
him run?
know. Dwayne Chambers. He did well against Dwayne Chambers. I would
Right.
have
But
put my
but I'm
hamstring.
saying he had the athletic
Yeah.
mindset. When I worked for Weider as the training editor for 6 years, and I interviewed every top bodybuilder in the world because they were all under Weider contract. And I would, the articles were about how they trained, how they ate. I tell you, very few of the top bodybuilders had any athletic background,
Yep. Yeah. It was
right?
like the kid who always took karate lessons instead of playing team sports when we were growing
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
up.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
So, but Levrone would have been of those few. I always liked that Dorian got introduced to weight training in reform school.
Yes. That's right.
That great. I think
Showed his
that
aptitude for it. So have we gotten away from purposeful primitive? I guess it's all
not
sort
really.
of.
I think we pretty well described it.
But
Again,
when
it's
you're
that.
talking about it, it's when you say purposeful, it means like we're doing that because we know that's the best way. Like we're
That's where the
cutting it through. We're
results are.
cutting. I always picture cutting through all the crap, and we're
Yep.
we're primitive on purpose.
Yeah. That's why we call it purposely primitive.
That's it. That's it. But
We're primitive on
but it's
purpose.
like we've done all that. We know about all that other stuff, and we've come back to the real shit, and that is you only need to do this. You can do that other stuff. You can do all
Yeah.
that other stuff. But if you
And,
want to,
and
if
and we do.
yeah,
It's like when you work with the tier one guys,
yeah,
when they're stateside, they have no time.
right,
But when they're deployed, they have all the time in the world. So when they're deployed, you create workout programs for them that are, it's like an accordion. You can open up, we can expand the frequency, or we can contract the frequency, right?
yeah,
And when you're pushed for time, I have guys making gains training once a week.
yeah. Well,
Squat, bench, dead, overhead press, 9 to 11, Sunday morning. Come on by.
yeah,
We got guys that have progressed in that every week for 5 years without a plateau. These are normal people, right? But I'll tell you what, they all lift competitively and they all do damn well in local drug-free competitions.
well, if you think about it, why couldn't you do that if you're squat benching and deadlifting once a week anyway, and you're spreading it out over a week, do it all on Sunday. Now, if you have
Yeah,
time during the week, then you can do some assistant stuff. But if you don't,
exactly.
still getting it in. You're still getting your 3 lifts in. You just have to cycle it, But
You won't believe how many people tell me that is impossible.
really, because
There
you're
is,
doing it anyway.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
they don't know that.
yeah, they don't know that. Yeah,
They don't know that the strongest guys in the world, Ed Cohn, Kirk, Doug Furness, Joe Ladnier, that those guys would only hit a lift once a week.
yeah, yeah,
What? What? No, no. You have, and that, again, that's the bodybuilding mindset, which really loops back to a fallacy. Back in the 60s, it was settled science that a muscle had to be worked every 36 hours or it would degrade.
right.
So that's why you had guys like Bill Pearl. Back in the olden days, Marvin Eder, Reg, those guys, they would have massive 4-hour sessions 3 days a week
How'd they do that?
because they didn't have jobs. Right. And they could train all day and they could eat before they got there and they'd stuff themselves when they were done and then take naps and, it just lived the lifestyle. They were like surfers, right? Like young surfers living the surfer lifestyle, living on the beach, partying at night. This is what we do. And you get really good if you're able to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think on. So those guys got to a certain size, and then guys just started getting a lot bigger when frequency decreased. Guys got bigger.
Well, the lifters had to because we found out that you can't squat 3 times a week if you're squatting 600.
Dude, how could you do that? Can you imagine like being an
You
800 pound
can't.
squatter and going Monday, Thursday? Can you imagine?
Yeah, and again, in strength training, we believe in the rested effort.
Yeah.
Uh, we believe that for a muscle to get stronger, uh, you have to exert 102% when you're 100% rested. It's great to exert 102%, but if you're 78% rested, results are necessarily going to be subpar compared to if you had taken the same session when you were 100% rested.
Yeah.
It's inarguable.
Right.
But if you train 6 days a week, where does the rested effort occur? Doesn't.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're engorging a muscle. It's different. We're continually flooding a muscle with blood. Pump it, 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 pump it. Do that. I think most of the guys are down to 2 times a week. Ronnie Coleman was 2 times a week. He had a pretty good strategy. He'd do his heavy barbell work on the first day and then come in and do the flies and the
Well, stuff.
cable
Yeah.
crossovers and the lighter stuff on the second day. Uh, but anyway, one time some very high level physical therapists, I would do seminars for them because they were very interested. Physical therapists are interested in how we get people stronger because that's a big problem, particularly with old people. They're frail.
Yeah.
And when you're frail, you have a tendency to fall down. And when you fall down, because you have brittle bones, they shatter. Now, if you're a resistance trainer and you're old, when you fall down, you get up and you keep on going.
Yeah.
Your bones don't shatter. I mean, my bones must be like platinum. I mean, they must be so dense because again, I've got over 60 years,
No question.
right? So they were very interested in our approach. And basically, I told them, I said, because they had been using a multiplicity, I mean, a amazing number of remedial exercises for whatever ails you. Oh, we need to strengthen this body part. Well, here we go. And it would be like, you remember Bill Pearl's massive encyclopedia of exercises?
Yeah.
The physical therapists have similar text. And I said, here's the difference. You guys have 1,000 different exercises for what ails you. We have 4 atomic bombs:
Yeah.
squat, bench, dead, overhead press, some variation of those. That's it. And they were like, what? What? How is that possible? When we're talking about the left anterior deltoid on the right side, I mean, don't you need to isolate and strengthen that? I said, they just get a big deadlift.
Dude, that isolation crap, man. When in life are you isolating a muscle? When in life? Like I always think, and what those physical therapists are doing is trying to get you overall stronger for life. It's not a specific thing like a bench press
They
kind of thing.
should be. That's
It
what
should
they
be.
should be doing.
So obviously, or obvious to us and people like us would be do something that involves the whole body, like an overhead press. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like,
Oh, Jimmy, what if you have to first clean it and then overhead press it? Oh my
exactly.
God. Oh my God.
Or lay back and do an incline like those guys used to do. Um, but I think there's a misunderstanding on how the body works, right? Now, yeah, if you're bodybuilding, yeah, take it out. Just take the bodybuilding out. But if you're talking about physical therapists, if you're talking about somebody who's trying to get better at life and trying to get stronger overall, just the difference between a seated machine press and a standing barbell or dumbbell overhead press You're working your whole body. Like you'll have somebody say, "Man, my abs are sore." I didn't do abs. I was like, "Oh, you mean your abs were contracting
Oh.
isometrically, like you're
Mm.
supposed to, not crunching,
Mm.
not crunching,
Ah.
not crunching." Yeah,
Ah. Yeah.
exactly. And you got to
And
flex
again,
your thighs and squeeze your glutes and grab the floor with your toes. And oh, I may have to do that in life. And man, aren't I
yeah.
getting strong in life by doing that? The overhead press. I'm telling you, man, if you could deadlift an overhead press, I mean, what else do you really need? You can squat, but man, at least you're squatting down some with the deadlift, and it's still working your quad some, you know?
Well,
Exercise.
again, this is, at some point during the podcast, you always disappoint me.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead. What, the squat?
Yes, the squat is the king. The squat is so far out in first place. Second place doesn't even matter.
Well, you got the compression. True. Compression is important for bone density.
Oh, now we're gonna,
I love the
we,
squat, but if you had just a barbell and you could pick it clean, think about it. You could clean it, or you could front squat it. You could put it on your back and squat it, but overhead press and deadlift, I just love the simplicity. You can get,
I would make those, they're in my top four.
yeah. I just think
Okay.
left, man.
Oh, oh, oh. Uh, the other strategy that we have in our purposeful primitive is because of the precision of our techniques, it makes lightweights heavy, right? That's a
Especially,
big part of what we do. That's also what the physical therapist found extremely interesting is this idea of, look, we we have precision signature techniques
yeah.
in these lifts, and if you attain them and use them, you'll stay safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's another technique. So making lightweights heavy. I always think of the goblet squat and how we teach the tier one guys the goblet squat. And they're like, it's 20 pounds. My thighs are on fire. So when you have I have a 60-some-year-old lady, does a great job, but I'll be like, okay, I'm not ready to go up in weight with her. I start to,
Right. Yeah.
she did last time her butt came up first on the deadlift. So
Yeah.
we're going to do goblets
Yeah.
this, and instead of going to 30-pound goblet, we're going to stay at 20 and we're going to
Yeah.
do 4 count negative to
Yeah.
pause but not
Yeah.
relax. And then you can also do the
Yeah.
relaxation. There's different
Got
ways to
to.
modulate the intensity without going up,
Yes. Yes.
especially, and
Yes.
that would be
Yes.
perfect for the
Yes.
physical
Yes.
therapist too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So much better than deadlifting and overhead pressing.
Okay. Well, the goblet is what's funny
I
is that
love the guy. That.
when we go to those tier one guys, and that's the thing we introduce first, is
Yeah.
that goblet. And it's amazing their reactions because it's so freaking hard and staying down
Mhm.
there. And you know how
Yeah.
we get them tight at the bottom,
Yeah. Yeah. Let go.
relax in the bottom. Now tense up again. Now tense up again. Now tense up again. Now do it again. Now do it again. Now drive up. And they're like, and you know what they always say is that's the best warm up I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's the best warm up I've ever done. Because now you deadlift, now you can squat, now you can do anything.
Yeah.
Because now, and think of your shoulders, your biceps, everything's getting warm. But anyway,
Well,
you're wonderful.
again, the the techniques, they keep us safe because we align the body with the thing about the goblet squat that's so interesting is that we like a vertical shin. Optimally we'd like an upright spinal column, because if you lean forward, that's when all the bad stuff happens to your back.
Right.
And
The
most
hard
folks,
over the middle of your foot.
oh, yeah, well, I like it more. We scoot back a little bit, but I won't hold that against you. So
You can't
what we
go. Okay, go ahead.
so the point being is that these techniques, we have to take a lot of time initially to get them down, and we don't let them proceed until they're able to do the technique. If 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 you don't use light poundage and insist on perfect technique, you ingrain bad technique,
Oh yeah.
right? And that's been a problem The worst thing for I here's something, Jim. I, I won't work with seasoned lifters who come to me and say, "Hey, can you help me?" Their techniques are so ingrained, right, that I can't really. They don't want to go back to zero and relearn. They're too experienced. They've got,
Yeah.
you've got 10 years under your belt.
An ego.
You're squatting. Well, you also you're squatting 600 and deadlifting 700, and you're 38 years old, and you don't have the time or the energy to go back to 135 and relearn how to do it all over again. And I understand that, right? And most of them, if you get 10 years under your belt using bad technique and don't get injured, usually you've strengthened yourself. Like who was it when we were down in Virginia Beach that time when
Adam.
yeah,
The deadlift.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them
Oh
about
no,
that?
he was over a 500-pound deadlifter, but
585.
his back was like his back was like this. And
What
although
what
I
did Hoagie yell at him?
they said on
Special.
they said on deadlift like a scared cat. But
And then
that's an example like
no
so
wait, then he came to me. Adam came to me when he's done. He goes, "Hey, coach, what do I do to straighten out my bad technique?" I said, "Nothing."
yeah,
I said, "Just keep doing what you're doing." I
yeah,
said, "You bulletproofed yourself somehow
yeah.
with the worst technique I've ever seen in a human, and
That's a big
you just rep 585 for whatever,
yeah.
five horrible reps, weighing maybe, I don't know, 215."
Clean.
Yeah.
Oh
And,
man.
and he's come to me, "What can I do?" And I'm saying, "Nah, just, you're good, buddy. You're
Well, could
good.
you
Just,"
imagine saying, well, let's put on 225 and let's start all over
yeah,
again? Well,
no.
what's funny is that we just spent an hour and a half going over all the technique and all the, hey, don't do this and don't do that and make sure you do this. And then he rips it
What,
up with,
what else? He had some other crazy thing.
oh,
I
his
asked him,
squat
I said,
workout. He had like
"Oh,
100 reps of squats. And yeah,
50, he said he was did 50 reps in the deadlift with 315
yeah.
in a single set."
It's a whole
I was
different.
like, uh,
Well, our one friend Hendo did 550 on his birthday on his,
but that was different. And Hendo was twice as big,
well, plus he's
and
and his technique's good
and
too.
it wasn't a single set.
Oh no, 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 no.
Okay, this was a single set. I was like, "Oh my lord!" I said, "Did you wear straps?" And he said, "No, I don't know how to use them."
Yeah. And which is another purposeful primitive thing. I don't know
Yeah.
it, so I'm not going to use it. Yeah.
No. All right. So I guess kind of to tie a bow on this whole show. Number one, if you, the listener, are a serious trainer or seriously interested in transforming, number one, it's you have to have, you can't just be a lifter or just be a runner or just be really into diet. You have to have balance between strength training, between cardio, between nutrition. And again, we'll get into the psychological in another segment, but the mind drives the process. We talk about things like motivation, and results are the key. Motivation springs from results.
Yeah.
So once you start a program, you got about 2 weeks to get some significant results for whoever you're training.
Gain some traction or they're going to quit.
Yeah, and once they start seeing the results, that's when the momentum happens.
Man,
So,
I got this I
good.
got this guy who's really high up in state troopers around here, and he did some stuff in his garage. And I was talking to him, and I said, "Man, I'll write you a program." And so I put him on a 4 day.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
upper body stuff on Mondays and Thursdays, lower body stuff on Tuesdays and Fridays. But you're squatting once a week, you're deadlifting once a week,
Yeah.
uh, you're benching and close gripping, like bench once a week, close grip the second day, that kind of stuff.
and logging it and
Oh yeah,
periodizing
because
and
he's one of those guys. Yeah, he has to. He logs everything. He's like, I've never felt better. And he's a 45-year-old guy, and I thought, and so since we're so engulfed in this, and I've been engulfed in this since
yeah,
1979, and you since
yeah,
1959 or whatever, you think
yeah,
everybody knows. You
yeah,
think everybody has the secret that, and it just took that little bit of, hey, we're not going to do like he was doing sort of a CrossFit thing, but without a plan.
yeah,
And
yeah.
without segmented, okay, this, and this, and periodized. And
Every workout was Groundhog Day.
yeah, exactly. And so now each day, each week, I give him a new workout. And man, you got to go up 5 pounds on your bench. I've never been that strong. I've never felt so good. I've never.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, I know it is, but you feel like, man, we got to spread the gospel.
Well, we've been trying,
I
but
know.
we can't cast our net. I had somebody tell me the other day, said you guys are overqualified to teach anybody except tier one and elite athletes. And I'm saying that's not true.
Not at all.
We we get fabulous results. I I get the biggest kick out of taking untrained people,
Yeah.
and I can get results for them so fast, and it's mind blowing to them. And all you're doing is just straightening their shit out and helping them out a little bit. I got one woman. I got a 58-year-old woman, classic. She's in decent shape. She like pays attention to her diet.
Yeah.
She did some Pilates and yoga,
Right.
right? And we're into the seventh week of her training, and she had nothing. It, 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 well, she got a TRX. She had a set of 8-pound dumbbells, set of
Yeah.
10-pound dumbbells, set of 12-pound dumbbells, and a stair step. So, squat, calf raise. I showed her how to do the hamstring deadlift, really lightweight. You bend forward. So that's legs. Chest, she does some dumbbell benching with her little dumbbells. Then I have her go over to the TRX and do TRX bench, supersetted with TRX row.
Mhm.
Right. Then after that, I have her do shrug. She's got a couple of little bit heavier dumbbells. So just shrug because everyone slumps. Everyone sits at a computer.
Yeah.
Everybody's slumped over. They need to do. I can't teach her power cleans,
Nor does she need to learn.
but let me tell you, since she's been after 6 weeks of shrugs, she says, "Oh, my upper posture is just straightened out." I said, "Yeah, it's because we've strengthened those upper back muscles, which were so easy to strengthen. All they needed was a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
That's all." Calf raises on a stair step. She's like, "Wow,
Muscles I didn't even know I had.
yeah, yeah, yeah." And her ankle, she'd been having some ankle issues, gone.
Amazing.
Just well, it's not amazing. Oh, so for triceps, we had nothing, right? Oh, diamond push-ups on the floor, on your knees. She's
So
shaking. And
purposeful primitive as you can
also,
get.
yes, exactly. Purple as you can get. And also she's getting and she comes over and sits because in strength training, you don't want to rush sets. So in between sets, she comes over and she says, share some wisdom.
Love it.
So I said, you got the glow. About 3/4 of the way through, right? Like her face is bright and her
Yeah.
posture's up. I said, I said, that's what we call the glow state. That's the hormonal tsunami. You're feeling it. She goes, I feel fantastic. I said, well, yeah. And she said, how come I haven't felt this before? And I said, because you haven't taken yourself to 102% of your capacity.
Yeah.
That's the only time it fires off. You have to,
Nothing coming in.
you
Nothing.
don't you don't get the hormonal release, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, the adrenaline that kicks off the process, the growth hormone. You don't get that cruising around at 70 to 80%.
Got to be total immersion. Total immersion in what you're
And,
doing.
and you have to take it in strength training, you have to take it to a point where, okay, I can do 8 reps, but I don't have 9 in me. Well, guess what? That's 100% effort,
Right. Because
right?
next time you will have.
Now,
Yeah.
102% effort is next week. Last week I only got 8, and it was a tough 8. Oh, this week I got 9. That's 102% effort, brother. Huh?
Right. Yeah.
And with 7 days off, and I'm only training her once a week on Sunday. And with 7 days off, we got the rested effort.
And you gave her something that other trainers or whatever coaches couldn't give her. You gave her time. You gave
Yeah.
her that concentrated effort, and then she doesn't have to go in the next morning and do 30 minutes on the treadmill and do a little
No.
circuit. No, I'm just going to hit it with a hammer.
Yep.
I'm going to hit and then
She,
let it recover. Hit it with a
yep.
hammer and let it
Yep.
recover. You know,
And as long as each week we progress, it's
right,
self-justifying.
right. That's
It's
right.
all about results. It's all about results.
Which equals motivation.
Yes. Now she's on fire. Now she went out and bought some dumbbells.
And can't wait to get back in there. And that's
Right.
when you know, Marty, when you have to hold them back, that's when you know
Yeah.
that's when you know you got them. Just hold back, man. Just hold back. I promise you, you're going to be even stronger this week. Don't do anything. Don't do anything.
Right.
Just
Right.
wait. And then when you get
Yep.
there, they're raring to go. They're raring to
Yep.
go. Yeah. And that's about as purposeful primitive as you can get.
All right. I think we should leave it on that high note because I think we
It's
tore
really
it up.
good. Yeah. It's
What time is it? How much time we got here?
we were on for an hour and a half,
Great.
hour and
Perfect.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Good.
That'll keep
Good.
people
Good. Do
interested.
you got any final profundities?
No, I
What
think,
you been listening? All right, let's talk.
okay.
Let's switch gears. What are you reading?
I'm reading a book about this guy who in the 1820s, this was before the Native Americans and the settlers were really at each other's throats because there weren't that many settlers. And so this fur trading company met up with the Blackfeet Indians, and the guy was like, the head of the fur company was like, hey, you want to live with the Blackfeet? So we can get a relationship going with them, we can get trade going and all that, and you can learn their customs. And so this guy, 20 some years old, goes and lives with the Blackfeet Indians in the 1820s or maybe a little earlier. And it's fascinating, man, fascinating.
And
So,
then he writes about it.
and he writes about it. Yeah, he writes the
Oh,
whole
I'd
story
love
about
to.
it.
I'd love to
Oh, I'll
read
send it
about
to you.
that.
So, but
Yeah.
you know, they kept a little what do you call it, coal or whatever, and they would blow on it and start the fire.
Yeah.
They kept the
Yeah.
coal. Well, the chief blew on it, nothing happened. Well, it just so happens this kid from his grandfather had a magnifying glass, and these Blackfeet
Uh-huh.
had never seen a magnifying glass. So he
Right.
goes, oh, let me have your pipe. And he puts the magnifying glass on the pipe and fire.
With the sun.
Everybody, he gets to ride with the chief. He's now staying with the chief. Everybody, he thought, oh no, you know, they're coming after me. No, they were coming to touch him because
Yeah.
magic. He had the magic because the sun was the
Mm-hmm.
god. And
Yeah.
this guy could just take the sun and make fire. It was fascinating. And he became that sort of brought him in with the crew because he had the
How,
magnetic glass.
have you got to the end of it? I wonder how many years he did it for.
No, I haven't gotten to the end. I'm like fourth chapter right now.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you for sure. Yeah.
You listening to anything good musically?
You know what? There's a lot of it's not folk, it's real country without a lot of so the good thing about that Amazon Music stuff, if you show a propensity for like old slow
And
country, then they make suggestions, you know, but it's a lot of young guys who have
right.
discovered the old
Right.
George Jones and all that, and they're bringing back. There's a guy named Zach Top who is the next George Strait in my mind, and
Right.
listen to a lot of Zach Top. Uh, so I like, you know, I either like really heavy stuff or I like really slow. My wife got run over by a train and I'm at the bar. I love stuff
Here's
about drinking alone and all that stuff. You know, I love that kind of stuff. What
here,
about you?
here's the best line. My wife has run off with my best friend, and oh how I miss him so.
And my dog. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. What about you? Reading.
Oh, let me see. Yeah, I pushed through the Churchill book, Manchester Churchill Alone, which was a big ass, I don't know, 700 pages. I actually found it. I was more stimulated the first time I read it. I didn't. Maybe it was because I knew most of the punchlines. So I picked up something else that was on my shelf. To me, the best literary critic in my lifetime was Christopher Hitchens when he wrote for the Atlantic. Was the best book reviewer in my experience. Now there were some other ones out there, but anyway, so he did a book where he described why Thomas Jefferson was great. And so it's Christopher Hitchens on the greatness of Thomas Jefferson.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And it's great because
Oh, he was so smart, man.
Jefferson was incredible. And he did all this stuff when he was young.
They were all young. They were
I
all
didn't
in their
understand.
20s, man.
I didn't get that before.
No.
That they created all this stuff when they were so young. But
Yeah.
it's a good read because Hitchens is such a good writer and he's insightful. And I don't agree with him on a lot of things. Well, he's dead now, but anyway, I found it, and it's a relatively small book. He did another one on why George Orwell was important. So you got Christopher Hitchens writing on Orwell and how his background, which is interesting, and his he actually fought in the Spanish Civil War on the side of the communists.
George
But
Orwell.
yeah,
No way.
yeah, and he later came out as this anti-Stalin, and that was real bad for the hardcore communists. If you were anti-Stalin, you were kicked out of the movement.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And again, to me, I think Animal Farm might be one of my top 10 books.
Yeah.
I reread that thing every 5 years. It's like it's just
as relevant as you can get.
yeah, but I just love it. The simplicity. It is as a guy who's made his living at writing for I don't know 40 years. It is the hardest thing in the world is to write simple. Right. It is so difficult, and he just does it so effortlessly.
And to still have it
It's
be so good. Yeah.
and tells the story, and everything's underplayed, and it's like it's beautiful writing,
Yeah.
but it's done. Everything is flat. It's flat. There's no need for embellishment or loud colors, or there's not an explanation point in the entire book.
When you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was A Clean, Well-Lighted Place by Hemingway.
By Hemingway.
Just so
I,
brilliant. And no, yeah, there ain't it's nothing, it's just so matter of fact,
yeah,
the whole thing.
just a slice of life.
Yeah, that's it.
I,
And
I
that's all.
like I like of Hemingway's 49 short stories. My favorite was The Battler.
Good. And The Big Hearted River is
Oh well, yeah. Big Hearted River Part Two. That was the first. That affected me. That was the first. I read that in probably eighth grade, and I had just gotten back from I'd been down in Arkansas for the summer, and was catching monster catfish on bamboo poles with worms and a bobber.
yeah.
Right. And so I knew that. So here's Hemingway's Big Hearted River Part Two, which is just basically a little fishing story.
Yeah.
But the clarity, when he goes to get the grasshopper, but the dew, it's wet. You got to get the grasshoppers when the dew is still on, because then you can get them, right.
And
And
the
then you
trout
dry.
against the current, the trout
Yeah,
swimming
up
against the
against the
current.
the,
Yeah.
the pole. I've seen that, right? Like, and you throw your little pathetic bamboo pole out there to try to get it. And one time I caught a carp that was, oh my God, it was probably 10 pounds. It pulled me into the river.
Yeah,
That's the kind of stuff that makes you a fisherman for life,
I know.
right?
Yep.
Well, like a hunter, like hunting, right? It's addictive. So anyway, the two Hitchens books on Orwell and on Thomas Jefferson, working my way through that. Musically, I actually went back to Glenn Gould. I'm a piano player, and I re-listened to the Goldberg variations. Very interesting. I might have mentioned this before, but he recorded the Goldberg variations when he was 25, and then he went back and recorded them again when he was 56. And the difference is so cool because it's like the young, aggressive,
Mm,
fiery
mm.
artist. And then
The
the
mature.
the mature artist
Mm,
with 40, 30 years under his belt and how he approached it. It was so soulful.
yeah.
Then he died 2 weeks later.
No way. He got it done. And that was it.
Yeah,
Wow.
the Goldberg variations. If you get a chance, and the technical, his his technique is just so mind. It's like Hendrix cubed for a piano player.
Mhm.
It's like impossible. It's like he has two right hands
He's
and
American.
two brains, Canadian, and
Maybe.
it's like two heads and two right hands. It's like that's impossible
Yeah.
because you have two lines of thought going opposite and then together and then this one, and it's just like, and if you ever try it, it's hard as hell. Like I'll try to do just the left hand part with my right hand, and it's like, whoa, right? And then the right hand part I can't do because I don't have that technique. But then the idea that to blend them together, I always wondered if Bach was able to do his own pieces or if he just designed them that way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Was I wonder if you don't necessarily have to be able to play what you write. A composer can write the oboe part even though he's never played an oboe.
Oh, I
Right?
didn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what I wondered when I listened to him. His technique is just mind blowing. So anyway, that's
Yeah.
where my head.
Well, there you go. Two different two different schools of thought for sure, man. I'm listening to Zach Top and you're listening to classical piano. So everybody will get something out of this.
Well, I'll leave you with this thought. You only get mugged if you go downtown.
Hank Jr.
That's right.
And your boy can't survive.
That's right.
That's good, man.
That's our national anthem out here in Pennsylvania.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again next week.
Yeah, man. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Thanks,
All
buddy.
right. All right, bye.